Hi, I'm Robin Boyce for City Corner. Welcome to this episode. Today we're going to talk about moving forward in St. Louis. Come on back. Welcome back to City Corner. In the studios today, we have really sharp, dynamic young women who are here to talk with us more about St. Louis moving forward. And they are Sister Sherill, who's president of No More Tears, Stop the Violence Against Girls. And we also have with us Dr. Christi Griffin, who is founder and president of the Ethics Project. Welcome, ladies, for coming in. I thank you so much and I know you're very busy with what you're doing in the communities right now and have been busy with some very nice projects already that you've have been focusing on. Most recently, Christi, you had an event at the History Museum that dealt with women talking to their sons in incarceration, I believe. And you've written a book most recently called Incarceration in Black and White. Is that correct?
That's correct. Incarcerations in Black and White, the Subjugation of Black America.
Okay, which is a very dynamic book. I'd advise everybody to pick it up because it really breaks down statistically and emotionally what's going on with this system. So with reference to the event that took place at the History Museum most recently with mothers talking to the young men, what were you trying to get the public to understand there?
Okay. The conversation was actually about the talk that all Black mothers eventually have with their sons. And when I say all Black mothers of Black males. The conversation was directed primarily to white mothers.
Okay.
And predominantly the audience was comprised of white women as well as Blacks, and there were some men there as well. But the idea was to allow the other part of the community that does not know the reality of living Black in a white America and in still a very racist America, what it is like to mother a Black male who has to go out into the world eventually, knowing that he is going to be at some point stopped, frisked, questioned, and harassed by police officers. And as we saw in the instance of Trayvon Martin, be stopped and questioned by any white male, and then be obligated to have to respond in a certain way, or in some states, be subjected to being shot and killed. And it's a very real risk that many white women and many white males simply don't realize actually exists.
Because they don't really have to deal with that kind of
They
lifestyle.
don't deal with it. And they had many of the people that we've spoken with, and we've gotten tremendous response from this. And in fact, immediately had a request to do a part 2, which we are doing
Excellent.
This Monday.
At the History Museum?
At the History Museum
Okay.
at 6 o'clock on this coming Monday, October 13th. And they just actually had absolutely no idea that this was the reality for Black mothers every day of our lives. When we wake up, we are concerned about our Black sons coming
This sounds
back
like
home.
a conversation that's going to continue. Probably by the time this program airs, this workshop will have already happened that you're going to have again, but I'm sure people just need to go to your website, which is theethicsproject.org. They could bring that up on screen, and you will definitely let them know more about these kinds of discussions that are coming up.
Absolutely.
This is all especially in light of what's happened in Ferguson with the unfortunate demise of Michael Brown and what has happened there in the cases of young people, the community coming and forward and up in arms, and has everything to do with the stop. And we are seeing this all over the country. Well, it's been happening. It's like, hello people, this has been going on, but now the discussion is happening, which is really, really making a difference.
It's been going on for generations.
Yes.
It went on during slavery, of mothers and fathers as well, having to teach their sons and teach their children how to respond in the presence of whites. And that mentality has persisted through all of these generations. My mother had the conversation with my brother.
I had the conversation with my son.
We all have.
And my
we all
grandson.
have. And one of the mothers that I reached out to, she actually had to stop and think when I first asked the question, because the others, I asked mothers who I knew had older sons, and I knew they had the conversation. I didn't have to ask. I knew they had the conversations. But this one particular mother surprised me because she had to stop and think about it. And that really surprised me. And come to find out, during that actual evening, when she did tell her story, she told the part that after I asked her, she had to go back to her sons and ask them, did I ever have this talk? And they both said, all the time, Mom.
Okay.
But it was so second nature to her that she didn't even know
It is basically a part of raising your child. Actually, if you have a male child, boy child, and Sherill, you working with young ladies in the St. Louis school systems and some of the other school systems throughout the region, you have this conversation with young ladies.
Absolutely.
You talk with them about the social ways in which you should be approached, how you should be talked to and with. What are some of the things that you're hearing from our young people? You not only deal with young ladies on a high school level, but you're working with middle school young ladies as well, and you're about to move into the college area, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But tell us about No More Tears and some of the things that you've seen happen most recently in the schools.
Well, with dealing with No More Tears, this we're celebrating, not celebrating, but recognizing that this is Domestic Violence Month. And actually, I'm really working with the young people, girls and boys, in dealing on how they relate to each other. They do have other issues that goes out into the community, but we are really talking about how do we keep and like each other, respect each other as male and female. And so dealing with young people on that issue, it creates a whole new thing. Because of when you talk about the talk, and I was listening to Christi, that you got mothers who talk to their sons and saying not to hit girls. That's a no-no. But we've got girls, our girls are so aggressive now that we've got mothers who are saying, who are mothers of sons and saying, I don't want her to hit my son. So, what do I do about that? So, there are many talks that we have in our community.
What are the young girls saying? What are they talking about most that's affecting them, that they have problems with, that they're dealing with?
They're dealing with issues at home. They're dealing with, talk about that all the time. They're dealing with how they cope with their families. Outside, they feel like no one is listening to them. You see it in the schools. That's why they, as we say, act up. They do a lot of acting up.
Do we see a lot more of it these days than we might have maybe 20, 30 years ago?
I see a lot of it.
Are children different now?
I
Is
think
that
so.
what's going on in our system?
I do. I think so. Of course, you've always got things that happen. There were things that happened in the past that there's nothing new under the sun. But our girls today are so much more different.
Okay. Are they much more assertive now? Is
much
that what you're
aggressive,
seeing?
aggressive,
They're much more assertive.
Yes.
They're really standing up for their rights, and they're saying, why not me? Or why can't I do this too? It's just a little different now.
It's real different. It's real different.
So we're seeing this conversation that our young women need to be a part of as well when we're talking to our young men.
Exactly, the talk.
And having that talk with...
Because we've got a lot of girls who get caught up in situations when they mess around with the wrong guys.
Okay.
And because of that, they don't know the law. And they get caught up in situations that they have no idea. They might pick up, for example, if they're messing with the wrong guy, they can get caught in the car with the wrong guy. They can, if the law enforcement is looking for their boyfriends and they get caught up in situations, they just simply picking up the phone, they can get drawn into a situation that they have no idea, how did I get caught up in this? So
we really, as adults, really need to consistently continue to talk to our young people.
Absolutely.
Regardless, because it is what it is.
Absolutely.
It's a part of society. It's a part of our raising our young people, mentoring our young people as well. We just have to have these talks. Is that right, Dr. Christi?
Well, it is what it is, but we have to change the system. We have to start changing policies, and we have to change the way we accept and respond to these situations. These young women have become so aggressive and so angry because their fathers have been taken out of the home. Their mothers have been taken out of the home.
Right.
The young men that they interact with have been raised in households where the mother is the one who is the primary caregiver, the disciplinarian, and there's resentment there. She's stressed, she's overworked, and their father is not within the home. There are so few African American men. Just statistically, women outnumber men in the general population. And then when you take a population of people and you incarcerate almost the majority of them, or saddle them with a criminal record, and they come back into the community and they try to reintegrate into the home, and they try to start being the disciplinarian and having a say after the woman has been the one to carry the burden for so many years. It feeds into that domestic violence, and these children are being exposed to so many traumas, complex traumas, multiple traumas on a daily basis, and we are allowing this system, this economic engine, that has nothing more than an economic incentive to destroy our communities.
And I've got to have you back on the program. I know you've got to get ready and go teach a class, and I really enjoyed talking with you and being on the board with the ethics project. But that is one thing I heard come out in a discussion you had at the History Museum about your book. You had Judge Dowd on the panel, I believe.
Yes,
and Jim Dowd. It was excellent. I did not realize that this was an economic engine.
Absolutely.
Imprisonment, incarceration was a moneymaker. I had no idea that it was a corporation
$72 billion.
that was set up. And the statistics that were given out that day that are in your book that talk about how, you know, having black males in prison is a lot more lucrative than having a black female. So but we've got to wrap up the program. I thank you so much, and I really want you to come back on so we can talk about your book and some of the statistics that are there and get some other people on to discuss it. Thank you so much, and you're going to come on back, and we're going to talk about some other things that are going on in the community with our girls. We'll be back on City Corner. Welcome back to City Corner. I'm Robin Boyce, and staying with me in the studios to continue our discussion on St. Louis moving forward is Sister Sherill. We were talking in the first segment a lot about what was going on with reference to the talk and the conversations that we really need to have with our children, and we know that other races don't really have to have those kind of conversations, like how to deal with a police stop. What it is you should say to an individual when they say something to you that's just not appropriate. I mean, it's crazy, but that's what it is.
Right.
And again, like Dr. Christi said, there are some laws that need to change because they're there and they're really have penetrated the community and make people think, oh, this is the way it is, but it really isn't. And folks really need to start reading and looking and studying what's going on. But you're about to do some really interesting things. Not only are you working in the school systems with dealing with younger children, but you're going into the colleges. Yeah. And you're going to start talking to young men about how they act toward young women. Senator Claire McCaskill has been on the forefront with her committee in Washington, D.C. and dealing with not only what's going on in the armed services with women being raped, and some of the other things that are going on, but also on college campuses. We've had a lot more coverage of what's going on college campuses in and around the region and in the country. So you're going to be talking with young men about what no means.
Exactly.
So tell us a little bit about those workshops that you're about to develop.
When I started No More Tears, I basically was doing it just for girls and young women, particularly young women on the college campus. But you need to include everybody. I noticed that you got to have the boys and young men in on that conversation. since they are the perpetrators of a lot of the violence against women. So I am going to be going into some of the community colleges and talking to some of the young brothers about actually relationships, period. I'm going to talk about, you know, the violence that that we as women experience at the hands of them. But I'm going to talk about really the relationship part, because I think that is missing. So many of our kids and young people don't see enough of positive relationships, and they don't see. They might see the grandmothers and grandfathers having long-term relationships, been married 50 to 60 years, but not really enough of people their age to see, you know, how does it work? You know, what does it take? And so
like
a lot
Karan and LaPortia Bolden,
Exactly.
those are two dynamic young black couple who are just, you know, but they're together. They've been working at it for a long time, and they're making it happen. But they need to see more of those kinds of couples.
They need to see that. And I had them speak at my last No More Tears Summit. And
what
so
was the
they got a
reaction
chance.
from the audience?
Oh, the kids love them.
With reference to them.
They're so energetic and so relatable that the kids loved it. You know, they really enjoy them. But yeah, talking to the young brothers about the violence piece, because sexual assault is prevalent. It's not only prevalent on the college campuses, but I'm also noticing that in the high schools, in the secondary schools, period. Middle and high school, you've got, you know, we've got to teach them to keep their hands to themselves. Not just the young men, but also the young women. Because as we talked about in the last segment, you know, we have a lot of young women who are so aggressive. And what I found in discussions with them is that they know that when talking, and the boys and young men are supposed to not hit them back. So they turn that around and they will hit them. And you see a lot of that going on in the schools.
And that's unfortunate, because they're basically defending themselves, thinking that that's what it is they need to do, the young women, when they are.
But sometimes
approached.
they started.
And I've heard that quite a bit too.
They started in
here
a lot
recently
of cases
with reference to the aggressions and how people socialize nowadays.
Exactly.
It's kind of like, what happened to the conversation? What happened to sitting down and discussing it? Or remember when we were kids in school and there was a fight that was going to go down, or you were mad at somebody and we put the fist up, and I'll see you out in the yard.
Yes.
What happened to that? Yeah. People are actually now dying.
Exactly.
In the streets of St. Louis over this. I mean, really?
Right. And how can you say, well, we using the language of fair fights, one-on-one. It's between these two people.
Okay.
Excuse me. Now we having the issues of being jumped on. You know, we've got families, we've got friends.
Everybody's getting involved.
Everybody is getting
with
involved.
This one child up at that high school.
Yes.
And they're bringing everybody
They're
up
bringing
there.
everybody. Sometimes you'll see they make the phone call on their cell phones and they'll say, you know, I'm having an issue. And sometimes you might see, you know, a carload of family members coming up, getting into a school fight. So, you know, we see all those kind of things.
So socially, actually, what it is you do when you go into the schools is really try to seize the opportunity to try to curb, prevent ahead of time.
Ahead of time.
Helping young people actually get an opportunity to think about it before they go there. I mean, are you seeing a difference with the young ladies now that you've been working with over the last few years? Are they thinking, are they really taking
I think so.
care about lashing out rather than?
I think so. I think some of the girls that I work with that are in my sister circles.
Right, are you good? Yeah.
Right. The girls that I work with in my sister circles, because it's a continuous basis and they get to come in and they get to talk about what's going on with them. And through that, you know, we can sit down and talk about, you know, what can we do to work this out, you know, to make it better so that it doesn't result into the fighting. But, you know, we've got young people now with this ride or die.
Wow.
Friendship. You know, that's my ride or die. And so, you know, you have to kind of like, wait a minute, what does that mean?
Well, yeah. Right. And I asked, what does
that mean?
Do you understand what that means? I do. But do they understand what it
Right.
means? Because, I
Right.
mean, people don't understand terminologies, and when they say that, like folks wearing locks, do they understand why you're wearing those locks and what the meaning of the locks are?
Right.
And I ask young men and women that all the time, okay, do you understand why? do you get why you're wearing those locks and what that means? And they don't know. They know it's a style and a fashion, but they have no idea where that's coming from with reference to Rastafarians in Jamaica and et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, getting back to what we would talk about, it seems like the social situation has really morphed itself. We've got some really hotbeds of discussions, and things are coming out that are really, really good finally to discuss what's happening with what's going on in Ferguson, which is going on in St. Louis City as well, which is going on in other parts of the St. Louis region as well. What's happening in Ferguson is happening everywhere. It's just not Ferguson, and people need to get that straight. But with reference to what's going on there, we still have some things that we have to do to take care of our kids.
Exactly.
And help them learn how to just relate to each other a whole lot better.
Right, exactly.
So how do we do that? What do we do to
we need to mentor more. And I know that's a word that is just being overused, but we do. We need to step into our kids' lives and see what's going on instead of talking about them. We need to, what part can you play? And I know it's hard. I know that everybody, what your gift is might not be my gift,
Right.
and my gift might not be yours, but you can do something. If you have children, keep mentoring your children, keep talking to your children. If you just mentor another kid, maybe your child's friend, that might not have the same kind of home relationship that you're giving your children at home, maybe you can do that. Your church, if you're involved in church, get involved, do something.
with the youth ministry and talking with the kids?
Yeah.
If suppose you're a single person and you've never had kids, maybe had no intention of having children, what should single people do?
There are plenty of organizations out here. You've got Big Brother, Big Sister. You've got a lot of mentoring programs out here that might fit you, what you feel comfortable in working with. Do that.
So you're saying there's no excuse?
There's none.
There's no excuse for...
Time is out.
Right. Okay.
Time is out.
Okay. So things can be different, because with reference to Mike Brown, the mentors that have come forward and talked about how they taught the baby, got him, his mom. I was so heartbreaking to hear that lady say when she was talking about his passing, how it was hard to get her son out of high school. And I understand that. And it was just heartbreaking to see her go through that, knowing I knew exactly what she went through. So it's so important to have somebody there to help a baby through, because sometimes they get stuck. Right. Or they get caught up in their own whatever, which is usually when they grow up, they figure out, why did I act like that? But I mean, it just seems these days it's tougher.
It is. It's tougher.
And
with the
do we blame this on the media? Do we blame this on social media?
I think it's all of it. I think it's media. I think it's us. Sometimes that we put ourselves, our own needs in front of our kids because, you got to work. And sometimes people, their schedules are longer.
But we need to be real
but
here.
We've got to,
right.
We've got to be real. We
can't blame it on something else.
It's a combination.
You know what I mean?
It's
and
a combination
TV,
of everything.
And we cannot do that. We've got to get serious about really getting busy and doing the right things towards our children, our neighborhoods, our communities. And is there going to be a groundswell here, a movement soon, you think? Or what are we going to see?
I think that there are people that are stepping up to the plate. If you look out into the community, you will see all kinds of different names and different organizations that's out here that are trying to pick up that mantle. And so every little bit helps. I think all of us are moving forward in doing that.
A lot of folks are dropping money here recently. These corporations and folks are coming up with. And I got an email from the Urban League the other day. They're looking for 18-year-olds to 25-year-olds in Ferguson because they got jobs. They have jobs. So the Urban League is looking for you. And they have jobs. And that's really fantastic that things are starting to move forward, and we hope that it continues this way.
Exactly, and don't sit down. Keep it moving. Don't just settle and say, okay, we've got a little bit of money. or we got a job, and we got to keep it moving. We got to stay out there. So
let people know
what's going on.
Sister Sherill, thank you so much for coming on again with City Corner and talking with us about St. Louis moving forward and what we need to do with our young people. I appreciate you. I appreciate the platform that you're working with right now in the schools, and anything we can do to support you here at City Corner, just let us know.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you very much. And we want to thank you for joining us here on City Corner. You have an awesome day or evening.